Hey guys, this is Dr. Gala, and today we're going to be talking about how to focus on weight loss. I know right now that's a big thing that a lot of people are talking about, especially when you're looking at the epidemic really that we're faced with today. We're looking at what 2/3 of the population is either overweight or obese, and we know that, gosh, even in the last 10, 20 years, I think the highest rate of obesity was about 10 to 14%, and now we have states over 35% obesity rate. So today we're going to be talking about how to work on losing weight while at the same time improving energy. So you can, well, really, so you can take control of your health and you can start reducing your inflammation and all the associated health issues related to that. Because of course, being overweight or obese can increase your risk of heart disease, low energy, of course, obviously poor self-esteem. It can lead to things like acne, polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, syndrome X, etc. So if you're watching this right now, I'd love for you to either, you can leave a comment below, or you can, as well as sharing this, because we'd love to get the word out in terms of these educational materials. So let's go ahead and jump on in. When we're talking about weight loss, there's three key things that we like to look at. And I think if you make things simple and not overcomplicate them, that's how you can really have a successful win when you're working towards weight loss. So the first thing that I like to talk about is when you're wanting to lose weight, because obviously, when you're talking about losing weight, and boosting energy, it's easy to talk about. It's a lot more difficult to actually implement. So when we're looking at weight loss, a lot of people can say, oh yeah, it's easy, just calorie in, calorie out. We know that that's not the case at all. But there's three factors that I suggest starting with first to maximize your results. So for the first one that we'd like to talk about is protein. And there's all different types of proteins that are out there, but I suggest when you're looking at protein, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is that when you're looking at a healthy source of protein, a lot of people look for protein shakes, or they think of like pea, or they think of wheat, or they think of egg, or they think of some type of, or even hemp seed type protein. When you're looking at protein, you want to think about the source that it's coming from. You want to make sure that it's healthy, that it's ideally more lean than fat, because that'll stimulate more metabolism. And you want to make sure that it's not full of potentially pro-inflammatory chemicals, meaning that for the protein that I suggest looking for is ideally you want grass-fed, grass-finished, or wild game type protein that's lean and full of omega-3s. That'll not only help reduce your inflammation, but it'll also help stimulate your metabolism. So a lean protein could include obviously things like fish, wild game, grass-fed, grass-finished steaks. If you want to get hamburger, you want to get the leanest hamburger that you can get. A lot of people don't realize that when you're looking at hamburger, for instance, at the store, that when you see a certain percentage of, like let's say you say hamburger where it says 85%, 15% fat. Well, we know that that 15% fat is added in, and when you're looking at the 85%, there's actually, the cut that they're taking, there's actually fat already added into that. So if you're taking a cut so if you see 85-15 at the store for ground hamburger, for instance, we know that 85% is going to bring its own fat with us, and then you have the 15% added, so it's actually going to be a much higher fat percentage than you think of. So I always suggest getting the leanest ground beef that you can. Why? For several reasons. Number one, when it comes to protein, your body doesn't do a great job of storing protein as an energy source. So when you're forced to burn protein, we know that your body will not only be burning protein, but it also forces your body into what's called beta oxidation. So you actually start burning fat faster than you would otherwise. And we know that in the brain, for instance, after about 2 weeks of a more protein-based diet, you know that the brain can actually start burning fat instead of carbohydrates. A lot of people think that when you're looking at burning energy, or when you're a fuel source, they think, oh, well, the brain has to have sugar in order to process. But we know that the brain, when you have either a high protein and or fat reliance for calories, that the brain can actually switch to more of a protein, or burning more fat and burning more protein. So by switching to protein, we know that it increases the thermic effect, meaning it increases your metabolism anywhere from 1.5 to 2 times the effect as fat or carbohydrates. We also know that that protein, your body doesn't store it like it does fat, because of course, if you're wanting to avoid this guy here, it's a good way to stimulate that. For those of you that are watching, this is about 5 pounds. So if you're carrying around 5 extra pounds, or you'd like to lose about 5 pounds, you'd like to lose this guy. So the number one thing that I would suggest is focusing on lean protein, either every meal or as best as you can that comes from a healthy source. So an example for breakfast would be ideally, you know, like egg whites, or you can do whole eggs, but egg whites or some type of meat, maybe left over from dinner from the night before, sauteed with some vegetables, and obviously cooked with like some coconut oil or something like that. So protein is a great source. The other thing that we like to look at is when we're looking at burning fat, of course, is supplements. And I've done a video on this before, but one of the things that we like to look at with supplements is I'm not talking about like a fad supplement or something like that, rather looking at things that we know produce energy. So for instance, CoQ10 is a big one. CoQ10 we know has been shown to not only increase, is not only a powerful antioxidant, but it also is one of the rate limiting steps in energy production. And CoQ10 starts to decline naturally at about age 25, 30, your natural production of CoQ10 goes down. So it's something that you want to make sure that you're increasing and getting more of in your diet as a supplement would be CoQ10. Another good one would be acetyl L-carnitine. So I'll even put these in here a little bit so you can see them there. So we have CoQ10, acetyl L-carnitine is a good one. Acetyl L-carnitine is actually one of the proponents that actually ferries, if you will, or shuttles fat within your cells. So acetyl L-carnitine can be a good one to help with fat distribution and getting that into, or the fat distribution, distributing it within the cell so you can start burning it. So CoQ10 obviously is important because that's part of the what we call the electron transport chain, or ATP, which is the currency that you use for energy. So CoQ10 is great for energy production. Acetyl L-carnitine can be helpful for that. And the other things, you can also do a protein shake. Of course, one of my favorites is the clinical paleo protein. It actually it's an all beef type protein, so it's not made off of it's not based off of whey or pea or grain or an egg based protein. So there's not very it's been known to have less allergens or less inflammatory type mediators in it. So looking at your CoQ10, acetyl L-carnitine, another one that, believe it or not, can actually be fish oil. Fish oil, being an anti-inflammatory, can also help in terms of stimulating weight loss. There's others as well, but those are some of the ones that I like. That we're not talking about a stimulant or something that's pushing your body into an overdrive, such as something like maybe like a stimulant like caffeine or something. But looking at those, it can be helpful. The other thing that we like to look at, obviously this is a big one, is activity. And I don't mean that activity from the standpoint that you have to be going out and doing a 10-mile run or anything like that. But when we're looking at activity, anything that increases your heart rate even a little bit is powerful. And a lot of people think, so I got to go out and exercise, I got to sweat, I have to have my heart rate go up, and that's the farthest from the case. We know that when it comes to activity, that any exercise can help stimulate your metabolism and help stimulate weight loss. But it's not when you're actually active and not when you're exercising. What do I mean by that? Well, most people don't realize that the vast majority of weight loss and calorie burning comes the following 24 to 48 hours after you're active. Your metabolism gets raised and boosted, and that's actually when you start having weight loss, and that's when the fat burning starts to come down, or when you start to do more fat burning. So when you look at the machine, or let's say you're on the treadmill or something, and you look and you say, oh my gosh, I'm not losing any, I only burned 100 or 200 or 300 calories. Don't panic, because the majority of the caloric burning or the caloric loss or the weight loss that comes from that is going to be in the following 24 to 48 hours when your basal metabolism is raised up. So those would be 3 things to look at that I'd suggest even right now, and as simple as starting this afternoon, that you can look at is looking at, are you getting protein with every meal, and is it a lean, high quality protein, ideally full with anti-inflammatory omega-3s is a big one. Looking at your supplements, making sure that you're getting CoQ10, acetyl L-carnitine. There's others as well. Others that I recommend is making sure your vitamin D is in the proper dosages. Fish oil, of course, is important. Another important one I would add to that actually would be magnesium, because we know magnesium is crucial in anywhere from about 300 to 500 metabolic functions. So having the right magnesium is crucial. There's others as well, but I'd suggest even starting with that as a baseline. So I'll even put those ones up there just so you know. So we got fish oil and vitamin D. I'm not sure if you can read that or not. So fish oil, vitamin D, of course, taking those in the right dosages. The fish oil, I recommend typically about 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of EPA, DHA a day. Vitamin D, I typically suggest about 5,000 to 10,000 international units a day. CoQ10, anywhere from 100 upwards to 300 to 400 milligrams a day. Acetyl L-carnitine, I think you can do about 500 to 1,000 milligrams a day. Same thing with magnesium, about 500 to 1,000 milligrams of magnesium today. When it comes to activity, of course, one thing that I suggest doing is setting your alarm or setting something throughout the day. So if you have a sitting job, for instance, or if you're watching TV or whatever it is throughout your day, if you're not getting out and doing something more rigorous or some kind of more vigorous type activity, then I would suggest you do something that you enjoy. It has to be fun, has to be enjoyable. So getting out and doing something that's fun, that's enjoyable, can be paramount in making sure that you stick with it. So either ideal having a pet or having a friend or someone that you can engage with can always make it more fun. And remember that the majority of weight loss comes from your baseline metabolism being raised over the following 24 to 48 hours. So if you're watching this either on YouTube or if you're watching it on Facebook, feel free to leave a comment and we'll see about getting some of your questions answered. I know one of the things that we had the other day that was absolutely wonderful, a result from a client that was making some great gains. And one of the things that he was saying was lost 72 pounds in 3 months, was able to get off all of his diabetic meds. Energy feels great doing this type of approach. So the patients that I work with and I find that follow even this basic simple approach can start to see some dramatic improvements in their health. And they can lead to start seeing more energy production, loss of obviously weight, and many times this can lead to reducing inflammation associated with obesity or adiposity or fat, and can start helping reduce inflammation. So you start seeing other things resolve, whether it's metabolic syndrome, even acne, autoimmune type issues, arthritis, etc. So basically any lifestyle-induced chronic disease that we think of in the US, you think of that as you start to get inflammation down, that's when you can start to see a reduction in these, when you start working on these things, you can see a reduction in inflammation, and that's where you can see start to be able to reduce or even eliminate your medication reliance. So if you have a question, certainly you can send it over to us. You can email it to either support at drthadgala.com, or you can leave it in the comment section below, and we'll see about myself or a team member will reach out to you and see about answering any questions. I think I had a few coming through here, so bear with me just a minute. It looks like more of a reply. This is the first time in my life I can feel blood flowing through my veins. To me, you guys are doing everything right. This really is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So that's awesome. Love hearing that feedback. So congratulations. Let's see here what else. I know we had some other questions coming through. Oh, one of the things was a question that came through today, and actually what was from Philip. I know I was talking to you a little bit earlier. You asked about stevia, and it was a question about stevia extract or stevia. So one of the things I suggest doing is when you're looking at stevia, so I don't like very many sweeteners when it comes to the traditional sense. So obviously aspartame or even, I know a big thing right now obviously is not only cane sugar but agave syrup. I'm not a big fan of that, so you need to make sure you're avoiding that. The main sweetener that I suggest and I'm a fan of right now would be stevia. The more raw that you can get it, the better. So when you're looking at stevia, I even grow my own stevia, and you can take the leaves, you can dry them, and it doesn't take much. I just go out there and after I dry it, I keep it in a little baggie. You can just take the stevia, you can grind it up into a little bit of powder, you can add that to your tea or whatever that you want it sweetened in. So we know that the closer you can get to the raw form, the better. But if it's something that in terms of, let's say if you're traveling and you want to go to a restaurant and you want to have something that's sweet, what you can do is you can keep either the stevia powder packets in your wallet or your purse or in your car, and or even a bottle of liquid stevia if you want. And what you can do is when you get to the restaurant or something, you can have water, a little bit of lemon squeezed in there, which obviously the lemon can help your body, a lot of antioxidants, a lot of other health benefits with that. Add a little bit of stevia to it, and you essentially have lemonade that's made up and ready to go. Another question. Let's see here. Coming through here. Oh, another question from Philip. I see. So protein from raw nuts in place of lean meat is good. So great question. So that'd be one of the things to consider is, when we're looking at the protein sources, I'm not a big fan of protein from nuts on a regular basis. If you're doing it, if you're having protein from the standpoint of typically I'm a fan of animal-based protein, but then if you couple that with nuts throughout the day as an adjunct, then that can be okay. So I'd suggest typically raw, unsalted nuts as an adjunct or for snacks. So that's where you'd want to be including that in there. So great question. I wouldn't suggest having nuts on a regular basis as a meal replacement, for instance. Let's see here, other questions coming in. Got a question. Let's see here. Okay, so had a question that came from, so this is actually a question from a client that was trying to make changes and energy level has been dropping. So, okay, so great point. So when it comes to protein, actually when it comes to all three of these, one of the things that's important to realize is that anytime you're making changes in your body and you're going from one caloric source to another, meaning if you're going from the traditional American diet, which is typically high carb, high fat, low protein, that your body is used to burning sugar as its main fuel source. And that's why we see that obviously the rise of diabetes is going up. We know that is obviously way out of control, and it's getting worse the way we're going. So we know that we have too much sugar, and that can lead to things such as diabetes, metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, polycystic ovarian syndrome, acne, skin tags, a lot of other health issues. Not that high blood sugar is the only reason that you have diabetes. We know that too much inflammation obviously leaves your body susceptible to essentially the negative effects of high blood sugar. So when we're looking at protein sources and the energy production, the thing to keep in mind is that when your body's switching from burning sugar and fat to more protein, that there's a lag and there's a time delay in there. So it can take some people right off the bat just start noticing their energy going up. Other people notice that it can take anywhere from a couple days to even a month, maybe even 6 weeks sometimes, before their body switches over and they get used to burning more fat and more protein instead of simple sugars such as sugar or carbohydrates rather as the primary fuel source. And in that process, some people sometimes actually feel a little bit worse before they start to feel better. So the reason that I suggest supplements is because that can help boost it can help boost the transition, and a supplement is just that. A supplement is to help supplement a healthy lifestyle. So starting obviously each meal, making sure you have a good lean quality protein with a bunch of colorful vegetables. If you're taking the right supplements, giving your cells what they need to be as healthy and as productive as possible obviously is crucial. And then increasing so to where you have some level activity, of course is a huge thing to be added in as well. If you're doing all three of these, we've had some people, like I said, I mentioned earlier, we just got a report back from a gentleman that lost, I think it was 70 pounds. I'd like to see if I can find the report here, but I think he lost like something around 70 pounds in three, and I think it was 3 months or something like that. So absolutely, crazy. I've seen other people lose almost a half a pound a day for about 6 weeks when they start implementing this. So when you start making these changes, it can be huge in terms of the results. So actually here, this is the gentleman. So he was on 5 metformin, 2 glimepiride, a blood pressure, a cholesterol pill, and his physician put him on some other injections. So after he started working with us, in 3 months, so let's see, in 3 months, he was down 74 pounds. He has 5 more pounds to go. He's off of all of his medication. He doesn't even take an aspirin, ibuprofen, or the antacid tablet that he used to take on a regular basis. So just by doing some of these simple approaches, you can see that the results can be astounding. It may seem oversimplified, but I think that's part of the problem is so many people try to complicate things. And they think that if it's not complicated, it must not work. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. It can be easy, but there's so much confusion out there with so many things that are coming at us all day long, mixed messages from different marketers and advertisers, that getting healthy really can be easy and simple. So just even focusing on these, so even just try this, just doing one of these things is going to increase. And if I had to put them in order, it would be in this order. I would suggest making sure that you get lean protein every meal, followed by making sure that your supplements up to speed, and activity. I know people talk a lot about exercise, but really I'd be suggesting exercise and activity being the last Why? Because most people don't want to do it. They don't like to do it. And frankly, most people don't stick with it. So hopefully you got some good information out of this. If you're watching this right now, wherever you're watching it, you can go over to drthadgala.com. That's where there's a lot of other free resources, a lot of downloads, a lot of more information that you can get more access to. So wherever you're watching this, whether on YouTube or Facebook, if you like this this information, we love to have your help getting the word out. So feel free. We ask you to like this video right now and share it right now, because our mission is to help as many people as possible reach their health goals, and we need your help spreading the message. So go ahead and like and share this video right now. If you have questions, certainly you can reach out to us. Otherwise, hopefully you got some good information. Just take one of these things and start with it right now. And again, I'm Dr. Gala, and here's to making the rest of your years the best of your years. We'll see you soon.